Cats, what's happening? Had a little solo trip today on my way home now. Did some hiking with some friends. We did over 4 miles up in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. A little snowy, a little cold. The trail was a little bit challenging. There were some hills, and it was a good workout though. But as we were talking, I was remembering the first car I ever bought was a 1966 Pontiac Tempest. And I bought that car off of this guy that was a friend of my father's, $250. Now, even in those days, that was a pretty cheap deal to get a car. I don't know why the guy wanted to sell the car. It was an older, it needed some work, you know. It was an older car, but it ran nonetheless. But $250 back then was, you know, a lot of money for me. I mean, it pretty much drained my bank account, to be honest with you. But I loved that car. It got me everywhere I wanted to go. It was pretty powerful, 326 motor in it. And the Tempest was kind of the, I guess, family version of the GTO. The Pontiac GTO was the sport model, so this wasn't the sport model. This was more of the, you know, the tamed down version. But it was a decent car, and it got us around. And I had put some big honking snow tires on the back of that thing, some Coopers, and it was unstoppable. It would go just about any place in the winter through the snow and everything. And you know, back in those days, we got a lot of snow, and you needed the snow tires, so that was a good thing. But anyway, what I was remembering was that I named that car, and I called it Sweet Jane. Now, you know, I was a teenager, and the popular radio station was playing that song, Sweet Jane by Lou Reed. And I don't know why, it just stuck with me, and I called my car Sweet Jane. And I started thinking about, you know, people that name their vehicles or their inanimate objects. You know, people have names for things like that. I'm sure some of you guys will have stories about what you called your car or your motorcycle. You have a name for it. It was later on that my mom, it was in the winter too, and she was going down this hill. She slid on the ice, and she was driving my Tempest, and she went off the road, hit the ditch, and it actually like twisted the frame. So it was totaled. There wasn't anything they could do to fix it, and that was the end of that car. So old Sweet Jane was put to rest and hauled off to the junkyard. I was pretty partial to the car, though. I did a lot of work on it. It had, you know, I said the 326 V8 engine in it, and the valve tappets were bad, so I had to replace a bunch of those. And the radiator was leaking all the time, so I always had to repair the radiator. And I even had to replace the rear axle on that thing once. That was no picnic, but I was able to do it. I did a lot of mechanic work when I was a kid. I don't consider myself much of a mechanic. I don't really like mechanics, but hey, when you have a Harley, you gotta know how to work on the thing. And I kind of enjoy working on my bike. I don't really enjoy so much working on automobiles though, but I'm pretty handy. I've been able to do just about anything I've ever needed to do. Now, my age now, I'd be more prone just to pay somebody to fix it for me, so I don't have to mess with it anymore. It was in the 80s, I think, I bought a Pontiac Firebird. It was a bright red Firebird with a black vinyl top, and it was a fast car. It had the 350 V8 with the 4-barrel carburetor. It had a 4-speed transmission. And then I had these great big slicks on the back, almost like a drag racer, N50s. And it was a fast car. It needed those big wheels on the back for traction, because it would take off like a rocket. Well, I named that car Panama Red. And of course, again, there was that song on the radio, Panama Red, Panama Red. And I think they were talking more about the stuff you smoke, but because my car was red, I thought, well, that's a good name for this car. So I even had it custom painted on the back quarter panels, Panama Red. Seems kind of silly to me now, but back then I thought it was pretty cool. And it was kind of a race car. I tore that car up, though. I ran it really hard, and of course, it wasn't. Whenever you have high performance and you run them hard, things are going to break. And the most common problem that I had was I kept burning the clutches out on the thing. So I was a backyard mechanic, so what I'd had to do is put the thing up on blocks and crawl underneath the car, drop the transmission, right on my chest, and wrestle that thing out from under the car, put the new clutch in, and then wrestle the transmission back under there, get it up on my chest, and lift it back in and get it to fit back in where it's supposed to go. Whew, I would never want to do that again in my life. I mean, it's a wonder the car didn't come off the blocks and kill me, because it was, like I said, real backyard hill jack job, but I managed to do it. And I had to do that with that car 3 different times. I had to replace the clutch in that thing. I ran it that hard. Well, that year of Pontiac Firebird, I can't remember offhand what year that car was. I'm bad with numbers. But it had what they call a unibody. So the body of the car was actually part of the frame too. And it was really bad metal, so it rusted out real bad. Well, the first problem I had was that my air shocks on the rear end went right up through the frame, and the back end of the car came down on my big N50 tires. I had to get some fabrication done on the frame so I could get my shocks back on to keep the back of the car up off of those tires. And then it just started being one problem after the other. The car just started rotting out so badly that eventually the clutch linkage, which when you push the clutch pedal in, it's bolted to part of the frame, and it actually broke loose from the frame. And again, I got under there and tried to fabricate some kind of a better mount for it, but there was really nothing to weld to, and it was just a big pain in the neck. And it got to the point where I just couldn't fix it anymore. So I think I sold it to a couple of kids for $100 or something. I mean, they bought it and they pushed it. They push started it because it had no more clutch pedal. It was there was no more linkage from the pedal to the actual clutch. So they had to push start it, bump start it, and I don't know how they stopped at any intersections or anything. They would have had to just roll right through because there was no way to stop without stalling out the motor. Hey, they bought it. It was their problem from there on. That was the end of old Panama Red. And I don't think I really don't think there's a whole lot they could have done to salvage that car other than pull the motor out of it and drop the motor in something else. Because as far as the body on the frame on that Firebird, it was shot. There was no fixing it anymore. So you're probably wondering what I'm calling my Harley now. Do I have a name for it? No. I don't. I don't name my vehicles anymore. I don't name my motorcycles. I don't have a name for my truck. It's just the truck, the Silverado, or the Fat Boy, or the Harley. That's what I call it. I don't have any pet name for it. Now, I know you guys have pet names. Some of you do. Some of you probably don't, but some of you do. I've heard some of them. And some of my buddies, I know they're pretty precious to their vehicles or their motorcycle. And they feel a very deep connection that they have to come up with a name for it. Old Betsy or Betty Lou or whatever you want to call it. The old girl. Yeah, a lot of guys like to name them after women too, so I always find that interesting. So what do you call your motorcycle? What do you call your truck or your car? That's all I got for today. Like I said, I'm heading home. It's been a long morning. It was a tough hike, but it was nice to get out and be able to do that and get some exercise. So I'm going to go home now and see what my wife's up to, see if I can help her get some dinner started, and hopefully enjoy the rest of the evening if I'm not too sore and stiff from heavy exercise. Well, give me a thumbs up on the video. If you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and I'd love to have you on board. We'll keep you posted with more good videos. Until next time, cats. Catch you later.